Greetings comrades, this is General Phoenix back in the action, now introducing our very own concept of what a Gears of War game could appear as if I was the designer and I based it solely around the locust horde. So I came up with this concept a while ago because I got so sick of Gears games not really measuring up to the original feel that we got. But everyone asks this, what about the locust? Why not a story archetype where we focus on the locust primarily in the hollow and then they come up to the surface or even afterwards? So I'm going to split this video into different sections and chapters, meaning that we're going to look at the game format first, how I'd come up with it, an additional concept that I believe would boost the game's quality even better and definitely give players their own styles. And we're going to explain the campaigns because there are 3 different campaigns explain the different parts of the story for the horde. So step back, sit down, and let's begin. So to start, let's begin with the opening page. The opening page shows these pieces: the campaign, the multiplayer, the horde, customization, awards, and settings. Now to explain this, as I've mentioned just in the intro, campaign has 3 different campaigns. So this is the one you would enter to go through all of them, and you'd have 3 options, which I'll just display. Multiplayer is where you could play online with friends or anyone who has this game. Horde is actually where you would do 2 different types of horde. You'd have either siege or defend. So the idea would be you could either siege against either the cog or the lambent, or you could defend against them, either in the nexus or defend an outpost. Because to me, that gives you an idea of, so you have 2 options, you can actually do these. So let's go to the campaign. So for campaign, we have Emergence as the first one. This is an introduction before Gears of War 1 is officially done. So this is during when the Locusts escape the Mount Kadar facility and they begin entering the Hollow and build Nexus and begin their civilization. So this will take place during the 10 years when they were at war with the Lambents. So you see that between that beginning section and to that moment. Now the war on 2 fronts, this actually takes place during gaps of the first game. So and we wanted this because I decided that I wanted to get that good introduction. So the first chapter would be Emergence Day itself. You'd actually be storming one of the cities. And then Final Stand will be where you play as the Savage Locusts. And the last bit will be actually where you take Azora. And then that was where it'll stop. So as you enter the one of them, you'll see the image of the background of the one you've chosen. And you'll see 4 different acts. We didn't choose 5 because 4 would be like it's gapped up quite well. So there'd be different chapters in the acts. So it would give it a good pace game, but it's not going to be something too long and nothing too short. Because one thing I hate with games is when they're too short. And then you're going to see setup. Now setup is where you would actually choose your class of locusts. So you'd have the different ones. You'd have your standard drone users like your assault hammer bust, or your standard hammer, or your upgraded hammer bust. Or you'd have the Grenadiers who use the National shotguns, pistols. You'd have Cyclops who uses Lancers. You'd have as well Pharaons who uses who uses the torque bows and the National shotguns. And then you get the image of the background which will be the chapter you've chosen. Now you'll see custom character. This is unlocked though after you've completed it, so there'd be a lock sign on it. But when you completed it, it would say custom character selection unlocked. So now we're on multiplayer. So multiplayer, again, it has team deathmatch, capture the flag, and warzone. So this, again, there'd be two different formats of this. So there would be definitely more versions of this game, like there'd be online horde, but this is what I would roughly come up with for an online setting. Warzone would be basically a free-for-all. So there are no rules. There are literally it's whoever gets the highest body counts, and you're not on any team. Capture the flag is where you would be set on teams to capture outposts, and then return something, say the flag, back to your outpost. That would give you a point. First to reach 3 or 5 points is the winner. And team deathmatch is obviously where you'd be on teams, but your colour would change though. That's one thing we'd have. So your team would be blue and the other would be red. And again though, this changes though. So anyway, So the colour scheme would be picked at random. So now we're going to go to Horde. Now Horde, as you can see, it has a single player, a multiplayer, a co-op, and then it has settings. So settings where you can you can change if you want bots on, and then it's whatever else a setting structure would have. Single player would be, again, where you play by yourself, no teammates. Multiplayer is if you played it online, and then you'd get the options between siege or defend. And then you've got co-op, which would be just console remote, just the control, same people on the same console. Now we're on customization. So as you can see, customization, it shows the character you'd design. That's basically, that would be the design you want. So you'd pick out which one's kind of style you'd want the locust to be. Do you want like a standard design for like a drone, a grenadier? Or do you want more of a cantus appearance? Or do you want a more damaged locust appearance? So there's a variety you can actually choose. Then you've got your class, which will be your standard one. So you could be a standard soldier, a Pharaon, a Grenadier, Savage, or you could be a Cantus class. I don't know what the class would be called. I'd have to double check this, but you get the idea. And then you have the option of main weapons, second weapons, and pistol weapons. So as you can imagine, any weapon that's available during what the Horde would have available and what they stole from the COG, from the first Gears of War to Judgment, would be on this, and they'd all be locust designed. So you'd see the colour scheme and you'd see all the different variants of them. Now helmets, this is optional. These are optional, these helmets and armours and accessories. You could actually get like your standard locust will wear just pants or trousers, but you get to choose like a certain style they wear on top. So let's say you wanted a certain helmet, you could either have a baseball cap or a standard locust helmets from the variety that's put on, from Cyclops, Troikers. I think they're called something else, but my apologies if I'm wrong. If anyone knows the name, put them down below and put down the time this was on. But again, though, you've got the option. You could even choose Pharaons as well, even if it's for a different class, or even a Cantus designed one or a Savage one design. But you've got to unlock them as you complete the campaign. Now armour, again, this is a variety, so you can pick out from all the other ones you've got. So you've got before, you've got after emergence, you've got like the laboratory experiment design, or you can choose a savage appearance, or you can choose like a locust who wore like a shirt and jeans or flannel, or a circus clown. There's literally, the concept could be infinite. For jokes, or even just some standard designs to more creative concepts that locust would wear human clothing as well, as a taunt or something. And accessories can be a variety of things. It could be a hat, it could be jewellery, it could be extra armour pieces, it could be cultural designs like emblems or necklaces that you would see the locust wearing in Nexus specifically, which you see in trophies and awards. Now, to go back to this, we're going to explain the campaign now. Right, so now we're going to begin with the first campaign. So the first being actually starts at Mount Kadar in the facility where the locusts were born, where they were created. And the first moment displays the first breed of locusts in the facility. Mira screams for her children, and the locusts begin to uprise. They begin attacking the security there, the Onyx guards, and the staff members and the scientists that are there. You actually, in the one concept, you actually kill one of them, and you take the weapon. You take a lancer, and then you hear Mira's voice guiding you to victory. And through this, you actually play as a standard drone with the pieces and everything. So there's not really any clothing on you. But there are attachments to your back, as you would see in Gears 5. So as you slaughter the enemies and go through the facility, you then reach the end cutscene and you see Mira takes a pistol and shoots one of the facility staff members with Ukon and Shrok beside her. She screams that they have achieved freedom, and they begin travelling down to the hollow. Right, and just to be cautious, they actually seal off the tunnel behind them so they can't come back to the surface that way. And that's the end of the first act for the game. The second part is where you'll have a little bit of a cutscene story similar to Gears of War 2 when Prescott gives his opening, where Mira's giving a speech as you travel down the hollow. You then see all the different creatures in the hollow, not just the Brumaks, but corpses. You see Reavers, you see Bloodhounds. You see how they look different, but you see the similarities. Like you see them before Ukon experiments and makes them into the monsters they are, and then you see them as they begin building the civilization. You then see the construction bit by bit of Nexus as a cutscene, as a big cutscene scene. And then as you approach, you actually hear reports of a locust group of miners being attacked. Your group then goes down to investigate, and you discover Lambent wretches. You have to attack them, and then this is the first introduction that the locusts have to the Lambent. This is what starts the Lambent War. As the miners try to escape, and the locusts that you are continue to fight, you face blood mounts as well as Reavers and corpses. Because actually in this one, more creatures have been turned to Lambent in this area. Because that would be the one thing that you didn't see in Gears 2 or 3, but something I definitely would bring in are more Lambent creatures, because you'd want to know what the other creatures would look like if they were infected by Lambency. Then we begin with Act 3. The Act 3 months continue on with the conflict against the Lambent still going on, and the Locusts actually struggling in the outer borders because the Lambent are beginning to spread and grow. A council with Mira planning the next phase of how to defend the outer borders. Then suddenly there's an attack on this area. Now they're close to the outer borders where this meeting is, but they didn't think the Lambent were this close. So Locust soldiers at Palace Guards escort the leaders out, whilst Ram and your Locust forces actually repel against them and force the Lambent back by killing them. And then you face a lot of the enemies, different ones. You face the wretches, and then you start facing the Lambent drones because you see one of the Locust Grenadiers infected as well. So you see that. So you see them now becoming more of a threat. And then Mira congratulates you now protecting her, and she awards you as a now warrior of the Horde, and orders that your squad, your elite faction, is to ensure that the Lambent do not enter the Nexus ever again, and to ensure that the Horde survives. Then Act 4 will appear. The outer layer is under attack again, with forces alongside Ram clearing them out, and discover the Locust drones have become more Locusts becoming Lambent. So Ram informs the Queen and proposes the plan to invade the surface. The meeting happens, as we see in the comics, so you see those hints of it. But then one thing does happen around the end of that. Adam Phoenix is brought in, because he's captured by the Locusts. Mira and the Council, including with your Locust there, question him. And Adam then proposes to destroy the Lambent once and for all, whilst if they let him return to the surface. Mira accepts this, as we know, lets him return to the surface, but as we know, that doesn't work because Adam has to invest more in the Hammer of Dawn weapon, then develop a countermeasure for the Lambent. So as a result, you are then vital to make sure you take back a route, because during the second act, you're ordered that a main route to the highway is under attack. So you are forced to take it back. There you discover a Lambent corpser. And that's one of the most dangerous bosses you ever face in the game. Because not only that, it actually spews out enemies as well. It spews out infected Lambent creatures. So it shows how heavily the corpser was mutated by emulsion. Then we begin with Act 5. During this last mission, the Lambent breach Nexus. There's nothing they can do to stop them in this point. And then this is where Mira realised that Ram is right, that they have to defend, they have to invade the surface. So the Horde has to change tactics, and they literally draw the Lambent in one bit, and you're charged with defending this whole wall section with Ram, with Scourge, and the other elites, using boomers, broomocks, everything in the disposal to take out an entire army coming in. You succeed, and in the end bit, Mira proposes to the council, we have no choice. We must invade the surface to ensure that the lament does not destroy our people, and we will become Sierra's rightful heroes as the world will be ours. Then we begin with campaign 2. So the first bit is Mira giving her speech to the Locust army as the corpses dig up the tunnels, and you're one of the first Locust soldiers to go into the assault in one of the capital cities. I have a fear as the capital city that I would choose to be the main one, mainly because it's got the history there. So you would actually be in the cutscenes where Gears of War 4 happened, where you see Kim near the House of Sovereigns where Emergent State happens. So you would be one of the Locust leaders going in there to clear out the areas, which was in Gears of War one of the most brutalist moments in the war was Emergence Day for 26 hours, I think, or 23 hours until the hammer strike. When the hammer strikes then hit, you clear out cog units of different types, so you take on a number of them are using different weapons, so it's like facing the first Locust drones during the first Gears of War game. So as you proceed then to a major location, but then you're forced back as the hammer strikes happen, your squad of forces luckily managed to just take cover and manage to escape the blast by going back in the ground. Then introduction is Act 2, where the war begins. So you begin clearing out survivors in this area, because you then begin to destroy 3 different stranded outposts in the area. So this is where you'll see the movement. So this is actually before Gears of War 1 again, because then you see the survivors that are stranded just build up, but then you attack multiple of their outposts. One of them in particular, you take a prisoner and you start bringing them down to the Hollow to do what the Locusts do, torture or put them into the work camps. Now, Act 3 is where you are ordered to take the last section of a fear, wiping out the last few defences to force the cog back and begin capturing Adam Phoenix in his estate. But of course, the Locusts don't succeed here, because they go to one location in his estate and they realise he's not there. So they tear up the house. They actually kill the few soldiers that are there. But then they leave and inform the Queen and inform the leaders, such as Ram. Ram is furious with this and orders them to come back to the Hollow to report for further orders. Now, Act 4 is where the light mass bomb destroys parts of the Hollow. So this is afterwards. So during this time, you were forced back into the Hollow because the Laminate occupied Nexus again. So succeeding you, and you have to bear witness to the Riftworm awakening during this point, because after the light mass bombing and you clear out the lambent infected area, the Scourge represents the Riftworm to the Queen, showing that he can control it and they will use it to sink the cities, and then knowing that Jacinto is the one they can now destroy now that they have a way to do it. Now we go to Act 5. This is actually after the defeat of Scourge. Again, you see those hints so you've seen the bigger time scoop, but then you're getting the bit of the story in. So Act 5 is where, after Scourge's defeat, you are ordered to wipe out the last of the cog going in, but you're also ordered to evacuate the Hollow. So at this point, you take out both cog soldiers and lambents as well. So riding on a Reaver on the last bit, and you face a lambent Reaver that is heavily evolved into a monstrous-sized creature. So imagine the lambent Brumock, but imagine it in the Reaver's form. So it's got more claw structures, bigger designs, even uglier and freakier. So imagine nothing like the Hydra ones. But as a result, when you kill it, it does explode like the wretches, and it actually seals off the tunnel, and the locusts that are still in that section are now trapped. and then you see the light mass bomb hit, and you see it destroy the Centaur, and that's when you all decide, the Locust with you decide on the Reavers, we will abandon the Queen. We now know we cannot survive. She will not lead us to victory. We have lost. And then this is where Act 3 comes in. This is where, Campaign 3 comes in. So this is where you see the savage Locust. The Locust that you were is now a savage Locust. So now turning savage on Act 1, you actually attack a stranded outpost and take multiple weapons, one being the Retro Lancer. You now begin using them. One thing though that I considered with this though, that this won't be a known outpost again. This is going to be somewhere within a barren area, because then in the last bit you then travel to the Deadlands, and this is where you see remnants of the Locust elites who are still loyal to Mira, because this is where it comes into Act 2, where you actually travel on a barge after you now retake them, after you capture one in Act 1. And then you use it to actually try and overthrow the palace guard that are now building an outpost there. So you see a bit of a civil conflict, because this was a question never answered. Was there any inner fighting amongst the Savage and the palace guards that were loyal to Mira? Because we saw that they worked together, but we never knew if there was any inner fighting. I wouldn't want to introduce that there was inner fighting, because they lost faith in Mira. They believed she was gone, so they didn't care about to worship the Queen anymore. They just wanted to survive. But as a result, in the end of this act, they actually witness Mira on her creature. I can't remember the name of the creature, and they decide to join her now. As she now shows that she has a plan. She now knows where Adam Phoenix is from an Onyx guard that she captured during the Hollow Storm operation. And now they have information of where Azora is. This was an elite who was supposed to go to Azora, but never made it in time. Then we go to Act 3. And Act 3 is your Locust squad begins to launch a siege on Azora, until you fall under attack by Lambents. So this is a point where you're actually building a fleet by this docking area. So you're not just using barges, you're using boats as well. But of course, you're one of the Locusts who goes on one of the barges. But during this point, you see Storks rising, you see the Lambent trudges, the drones, the wretches. You see a lot of enemies who are coming in. You have to just defend these areas as long as you can, and then fall back. You get on the barge, and then you escape as more Storks keep growing up. Act 4 is then where you then see the Maelstrom, but of course you're actually one of the ones who actually has to infiltrate in. So using diving equipment, you actually swim underneath. You actually travel underneath the Maelstrom, and then you head into the beach and infiltrate it just with a small army of Locusts and shut down the Maelstrom. When you do this, this is where the Locust fleet, both aerial and naval, begin swarming the beaches and all the other outer areas to invade Azora. This is where we get into Act 5. In this last part, the siege, you lead the whole large faction together with Queen Mira, the Reavers, the barges acting as air support, and you swarm at Azora. You destroy every human in your path. And then, as you can imagine, during this point, you actually travel to the hotel where Adam Phoenix is in his laboratory in the top floor in the hotel tower. When you reach that last bit, you then kill one of the staff members there, and you hold him, and you keep your weapons on him until Mira walks in. Now, telling Adam that they need to speak about how to destroy the Lambent and to ensure that the Locusts survive. Of course, this is only like a rough concept though, so there's not a lot of the refinement of the story. Again, these are rough concepts of what I would do for a campaign, how I would make the foundations But of course, if this was to be developed as a game, it would obviously, some parts would need refining, so we know exactly some bits like time gaps and anything else, so what exact dates were being used during the dates. Again, you do have clarification on this in the comics as well as the games, but some bits it's better to know exactly what certain missions were done, just in case anyone doesn't know which ones. And I'm not a big reader of the comics, mainly because I've not been able to purchase them or I don't have access to them in any other way. So I've literally based this on what I've known, what I've managed to read both on the internet and about some time slots and known knowledge about the Locust Wars and the Lambent. And again, most of the creatures, as well as like the Lambent Reavers and Corpses, are my own concepts of what would happen if they were exposed to Lambency for too long, like we saw with the Lambent Brewmox in Gears 2. So comment down below what you thought of this. If you were to change anything or add anything on, what would you have done? And thank you for watching, and until then, this is General Phoenix, signing off.